Well, I began the project with an exploratory paddle in 2015, and the more I learned about the river, the more enthused I became about the idea of doing a book. I soon connected with the St. Croix River Association, which is the official friends group that works with the national park, and I learned that 2018 was going to be the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act, and that act gave federal protection to both the Namekagon and the St. Croix rivers. The St. Croix River Association also suggested that Vice President Mondale might be willing to write an essay for such a book. Mondale was a senator back in 1968, and Gaylord Nelson, a senator from Wisconsin, came to Mr. Mondale asking for his help in creating this Wild and Scenic Rivers Act, which would give protection to these rivers. And Mondale said, yeah, I know these rivers. I know the St. Croix, and it's deserving of protection. So they teamed up, and at that time, Northern States Power, an electric company, owned most of the riverway with the hopes of developing hydroelectric energy from the rivers. And they decided at some point that the future was in coal, not in hydro. And they agreed to donate most of their holdings, close to 30,000 acres, to both the federal government and the state governments for the National Scenic Riverway and some of our state parks. And so the subtitle to this book, The Enduring Gift, is a reference to that gift from Northern States Power to the people of our country. It's also, as any state or national park, it's a gift we've given to ourselves that goes on. Even though my home near Moose Lake, Minnesota is within the St. Croix watershed, prior to working on this project, I'd only paddled small sections of the Namekagon and the St. Croix, some of the tributaries like our Moosehorn River here at the edge of town, the Kettle River, and some of the other tributaries like the Kinnickinnick. But I hadn't paddled the whole riverway. And as I started to do that, I discovered there's a tremendous diversity to both the topography and the ecosystems. I had no idea that these rivers had so many rapids, stretches of magnificent white pines, nor the tremendous mixing of the forest types near Cedar Bend. Most of my paddling has been on Lake Superior, where the wildlife is rather sparse. The St. Croix is rich in bird life, exemplified in its rookeries filled with herons and egrets, cormorants. Almost every day I saw eagles several times, osprey, just a tremendous variety of wildlife. Most of my photography was done while on kayak trips down the rivers. In 2016, I paddled every mile of both the St. Croix and Namekagon to learn what the subject was. Like I said, I knew parts of it, but I didn't know a whole river, so this gave me an overview of it. And typically, I try to select campsites that have some potential for good morning photography, either from camp or somewhere close by. I'd then get up well before sunrise, hoping for either morning fog or nice warm light. Once I'd finished my morning photography, I'd break camp and start paddling, and I'd stop often to make photographs along the way, sometimes from my kayak, but often getting out and setting up the tripod on the river bottom or on the shore. Except for when the water was very warm, I'd wear a dry suit so I could stand for long periods of time in the river without getting chilled. And it also kept the leeches off. I did a lot of work in kind of muddy bottomed areas around where there are water lilies, and it was nice not having to worry about the leeches. To work with the wildflowers and the rock formations around interstate parks, I base camped at the parks there, and then I hiked the extensive trail systems there and down around Osceola. Just wonderful wildflowers, and the geology of the kettles, the potholes left from when the glacier meltwater from Lake Superior was roaring down this river valley, taking the giant rocks and spinning them around, drilling giant holes in the bedrock. One of the great things about the timing of this project was the advent of drones and the miniaturized high-resolution cameras that the drones could carry. So I was able to create images from vantage points that nobody had ever seen the rivers from before. I worked with my friend and colleague John Smithers. John's been flying drones and doing photography from them for several years. And to begin with, before we went out, I flew over the rivers using Google Earth to select the locations we'd want to work from, the time of day we'd want to be there, the elevation, angle of view. And then John and I would go out and I'd art direct over his shoulder, watching the images on a tablet as John controlled the drone and the camera. We wound up using over 50 images made from the drones, revealing the river's twists and turns and the many islands. In the end, it took about 2.5 years to gather all the photographs, another half a year to collect the quotes that we used on the interleafing pages, and design the book, and finally get it printed, produced. We decided fairly early on in the process to not only do a normal coffee table size book, but also these larger 17 by 21 inch, the museum edition and the signature edition books. Here I'm holding the signature edition, which has Walter Mondale's signature and mine signed in pencil on the covers. And this has become a trend in publishing to offer something very limited number of individuals, museums, libraries, corporations, something truly special. And from an artist, designer viewpoint, it's a wonderful experience to have the freedom to select the highest quality materials and the optimum size for the project. And with these larger books, you receive some original framing prints in a large clamshell case. With the museum edition, you get 3 prints on 24 by 34 inch paper. With the signature edition, you get 6 prints. And again, they come in their own clamshell case, so you can keep them in the case and collect additional prints that way if you would like, or you can frame them. The prints fit within the custom coffee table as well, so if you would like to display them under the glass top of the coffee table and rotate them through that way, it's a way of displaying the prints. It was wonderful to have Mr. Mondale's essay in the book telling the story of the protection of these rivers 50 years ago. And we were also privileged to work with Peter Mayer, a singer-songwriter from Stillwater. And Peter wrote original songs for the 1-hour video that goes with each copy of the book, in which he tells the stories of the rivers and adds a tremendous emotional impact to the images. Peter and I have done several performances where he plays the music live while the video is projected, and it's been a lot of fun for us, and I think the audience has really enjoyed it as well. My goal in producing both the video and the book was to give you, as close as I could, the same experiences that I had when I was out on the rivers. I wanted to take you on a guided journey down the rivers where magically nature is always at its best. The mists of dawn, a calm before a thunderstorm, blazing sunsets, the wildlife attired in their seasonal finest. Most of all, I wanted you to slow down to the pace of the river's current, to let go of the daily stresses and become for a few minutes a part of the rivers, simply allowing yourself to flow along, opening your senses, take in what's presented.